The next job is the volume knob, and as you saw when I went through and did the assessment, this was making some funny noises. Now if you actually move the knob is actually quite free moving, which means there's nothing underneath it that seems to be you know, it doesn't seem like there's dust or dirt or anything like that in there. So what I'm hoping is I can get away with just putting some contact cleaner inside the pot itself. But in order to get to that, I've got to remove the board, because you can't get to it from the top. There's no way of getting the contact cleaner in from the top, so you've got to actually drop the board out. Now looking at this, if I do that, and I'm hoping this is coming, in fact actually what I'll do is I'll do that. So I'm hoping you can see this. Now this board here is the board where the volume pot is. The volume pot is actually there. I'll just do that so you can see that. The volume pot is there. It says master volume on the board underneath. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. And these 2 screws you can't get to without removing this board here. Which is a bit of a pain, but we're going to have to do that. So we're going to have to take that board out, which is taken out from the back panel. And then we're going to have to take the screws out of this board to move it forward, and hopefully I can get the contact cleaner into that board thereafter. That is my hope. So and I'm hoping that that will cure the problems with the volume knob. Otherwise I suspect we're probably going to be looking at a new volume knob. So if I turn this back over here and I push this up to camera like so, and I'm hoping this comes across, but there are actually 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. Actually, let me just move this along a bit so it all comes out onto camera like so, and if I do that, these should be able to see 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. So let's get the screwdriver, let's get that first board out. I'm hoping I don't have to disconnect anything. I'm hoping I can just move the boards forward, do what I need to do, and then put the boards back without actually having to disconnect anything. So screwdrivers. Okay, we'll start with the screws at the back. There's 4 of those. The other thing I'm going to do while I've got the keyboard down like this is these knobs just pull off like so. Although you might have to give them a little bit more force. I suspect they haven't been off since the keyboard was new. Right. We're getting inside. I can move that board out of the way. Like so. There's some dust bunnies, so what I'm going to do is just going to switch the camera off while I hoover the dust bunnies up. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Okay, now we've got this board out of the way, we can look at this board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 screws to come out of this one. They secure them well in the old days. It's interesting, this screw looks like it's got some sort of glue on it. It does have some sort of glue on it. No idea what that's about. It's resin left over from the original manufacturer. Okay, that's all the screws out. Hopefully this should just now lift out, which it does. Oh my god, look how dirty that board is. That is truly filthy. Absolutely disgusting. I'm hoping that's coming across on camera. Okay, so I'm going to have to clean that. Again, I'm going to stop the camera because it's pointless showing me just cleaning it. But I'm going to get rid of a lot of this surface dust first. And there's all the dust underneath here as well, which is absolutely filthy. And then I'm going to look at how can I get into there. There's an ingress point there by the looks of it, which I might be able to squirt some contact cleaner in. With a little bit of luck, and that might do the trick. But I'm not surprised, given the amount of dust and dirt in here, that certain things aren't working as they should. We could have contacts being breached and bridged all over the place here. Okay, I'm going to get on and do this, so let's see what happens. Okay, I've given this a quick once over, and the reason I'm holding the toothbrush is because quite often it's difficult to get anything in between the components, whereas a toothbrush is just kind of hard enough just to get in between to get the dust bunnies out from inside the track. So I've given it a clean. It looks considerably better than it did. I'm not going to do what I would normally do in this situation. If this was my synth, and it's not my synth, but if this was my synth, I would probably take the board out and use a bucket of soapy water. But this is not my synth. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do what I need to do. The great thing about this is these protectors are still in place. They haven't perished, so that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some contact cleaner down into those contacts, because that should ensure that they're free and running. So do it that way, like that, and on this one do the same again. Possible that one might be, that's free moving. This one is there's a bit of resistance here. That might need changing. I'm not sure it's going to need changing on this particular exercise. That one's fairly free as well. And then, as I said, there's an ingress point here. Put that in there. Give that a bit more in there. And then just going to spray a bit to this switch. So that one I'm a bit concerned about. What's that? That's the rate knob. So that one is not moving as free. This one is really free. This one is really free. That one, unfortunately, is not really free. I don't really want to change it, so I'm just going to leave it with it where it is, and hopefully that contact cleaner will just work its way through on all of these, like so. Okay, I'm not going to do much more on this until I've tested it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to put it all back together, and then I'm going to take it and test it to see if that little bit of maintenance has solved the problems. So as you can see, the boards are now back in place, and these things are quite interesting because if you look on the other side of this particular area here, this is where all the buttons are. And so obviously they needed to reinforce the board a bit for the constant pressure of pressing those buttons. So they've put in these, they're not cardboard, but they're like a hardboard washer that spreads the load across. So instead of having a point load where the screw comes in, they've actually spread the load across about 2 centimetres of the board. Quite a clever solution. I suspect it was as a result of a number of these machines being broken either earlier on in testing or earlier on in production that they've had to put these boards in. Well, that'd be my theory anyway. That's the reason why it looks like that, because that is obviously where the point load is for all the patch selection buttons. As you can see, the bank selection buttons, there's a screw either side of those, so they're held quite firmly, but these I suspect is a bit of a weak point. Anyway, the boards are back in, they've all been screwed back in. Luckily enough I didn't have to disconnect anything. That one I'm still a bit worried about. That one's lovely and free, that one's lovely and free. This is lovely and free, so I'm hoping that I've got away with that. We'll see with this rate slider. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this into the into my practice room in a disassembled state, and fire it up and see if things are working, or the fixes we've done so far are working. And on that note, I think it's time to close this part down and say live long and prosper. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.